Before I get into the video, I just want to say, last time I uploaded a video we were at 100 subs, and as of when this video was being made, we are now nearly 4 times as big. There are a lot more of you since we last had a chat. So I just want to say hi to everyone who's new, welcome, I hope you enjoy your stay, and without further ado, on to the video. So today we're going to be talking about a loadout that I've been using on my spy for a while. Now there's a lot of different ways to play spy, but ultimately they all come down to fooling the enemy team with a combination of your disguise and cloak, with the intent of sticking a sharp blade into someone's back. This is really fun, but I've been mixing it up and focusing on what I like to call the combat spy. Now the combat spy is an alternative playstyle for the spy where you focus primarily on your revolvers for damage and your cloak for protection, while your sapper and knife take a back roll and you only use them situationally. My combat spy loadout of choice is the stock revolver, the stock sapper, the spicycle, and the dead ringer. You can also use the disguise kit with this loadout, but I found I didn't really need it and didn't bother putting it on that much unless I was, had to take on a sentry. So I'll start with the revolver. You might be wondering why I didn't take the ambassador for the superior burst damage on the headshots, and the answer is pretty simple. I don't have good enough aim with the ambassador yet. And I thought that if I was using it, the challenge would be more focused on my ability to aim rather than my ability to play aggressively as a spy. Now the revolver is a surprisingly strong weapon. Most people underestimate it. The first shot is always perfectly accurate, with successive shots having a bit of spread. And most of the low to mid health classes in the game can be finished off in 2 or 3 revolver bullets. And since the revolver is good at medium and close range, you should feel comfortable fighting anyone but a sniper on the other end of a sightline. Now, the revolver will also always be at max crit chance right after a backstab, since backstabs count for so much damage. So you can basically guarantee yourself a couple of crits that way, although you're not reliant on getting backstabs like you would with a diamondback. In case that doesn't make sense, basically, whenever you do a ton of damage, your crit chance will be at its maximum potential, and since you do so much damage with the backstab, you're basically guaranteed to get a crit if you fire off a couple of shots right after getting a backstab. One other thing to take note of is the spy's ability to see his enemy's health bars, which is extremely effective when using the revolver, since you can very accurately predict whether or not you can kill someone in a fight. Whenever I was encountering opponents, I was able to almost instantly decide the outcome. Either I saw they were at manageable health and I quickly finished them off, or I realized they were too strong for me to fight and escaped. Now, speaking of escaping, this brings us to the next item in the loadout, the dead ringer. This watch is a very useful escape tool, granting a speed buff and a cloak upon taking damage while making it look like you actually died to the enemy. I like to activate my ringer in the middle of a fight when both me and my foe are low health, and then use the speed buff to reach the nearest health pack before returning to finish them off. This speed buff is especially strong on smaller maps such as King of the Hill, where you can use the buff and cloak to pop up almost anywhere on the map, and the enemy's going to have a very hard time following you after you've cloaked. The dead ringer is also going to make you immune to afterburn after the first few seconds of cloak, and if this isn't enough time, the spicycle can also be used to extend this period. That's why I use the spicycle in this loadout. Since I wasn't focusing much on my knife, the spicycle seemed like a very useful choice, since I could use the afterburn immunity to slip away and get the health pack before I burned to death. And as for the sapper, it's basically just there to sap any buildings that get in your way. I pretty much didn't use it except in passing, and I would usually just sap the building and then finish it off with my revolver. Overall, this loadout is really fun to play with because it's something that a lot of people don't expect from spies. It's also a very hard playstyle to counter since you aren't trying to fool the enemy very much, just kind of punishing them for being unaware of your presence. One of my favorite things to do was to sneak up on snipers and then gun them down before they could even unscope. And they really had no idea how to counter this. I mean, I was already shooting them. I wasn't using my knife, so it's not like they could put on the razorback. And I wasn't using a cloak other than the dead ringer, so they couldn't listen for a decloak sound. They kind of just had to wait for me to happen upon them and kill them. I was also able to get medpicks really easily, since instead of trying to infiltrate a group of enemies and backstab the medic, I could just shoot him from the sidelines and his friends wouldn't even realize until he was dead. I definitely recommend trying this loadout the next time you hop onto TF2. It's a lot of fun and you might be surprised what the spy can do on the front lines.